Hello, welcome to the Jared Cast. I am so excited to talk to you guys about Twisters. This is the follow up to the 1996 classic, which I actually have on Blu-ray, but it's not the Blu-ray of the day. Blu-ray of the day is T2 Judgment Day. I love this little Blu-ray thing because it's a 2009 edition, so a lot of these early Blu-rays had quizzes and games that you can do, and they also had BD Live, which gave you bonus content while the movie is going on. It's really kind of fun, really kind of cool, and I like that they really banked on people loving the interactive special features thing. Most people, I'm sure, don't, but that like they just kind of watch the movie and be done with it. But I like it. So yeah, term T2 Judgment Day Skynet Edition, very cool, very fancy. Yeah, that's the Blu-ray of the day. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the original Twister, starring Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, also featuring Todd Haynes, oddly enough, um, uh, and of course Philip Seymour Hoffman is one of the biggest standouts of that film to me. Um, you know, every time I watch Twister, I'm reminded of how much I miss that guy and miss his craft and his screen presence. But yeah, this one's very different, but not too different. I think director Lee Isaac Chung, who kind of grew up in the Midwest, really tries to add a little more of a human touch to this. I think the connection between the protagonist's uh, inner conflict and the conflict with the tornadoes is a little more closely woven together. Um, but yeah, I think he did a really good job, Lee Isaac Chung, who did Minari, and normally it's always kind of hit or miss when an indie director goes big budget right away. But I think he did a really good job, and I think the movie actually looks really beautiful. I know they shot it on 35 millimeter Kodak, and I got to see it in an IMAX theater, and honestly, it really shines. The movie is has a lot of like really amazing color when the sun's out, and also really amazing color when it's overcast. I think oh, a big issue with a lot of movies that are digitally colored nowadays that I have is that they all kind of look the same, and I think this one does a good job of distinguishing itself from those movies, and kind of making not just every scene look different and distinct, every sequence look different and distinct, but making every tornado look different and kind of give them their own personality. I never really felt like like as a disaster movie that it was too repetitive. I felt like it was more like a monster movie where the monster just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I really like that. I really like the tornadoes. I think they look really cool. I know in the trailer they sort of give away the fire tornado, which I thought would be a little more interesting. I I Unfortunately it like wasn't my favorite tornado, but I think it's still great. The leads played by Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell, and then also Anthony Ramos. I think they all did a great job. They all have been lead actors in their own films, but kind of sharing the screen together. I think they actually did a really cool thing. There's no sort of ego of someone trying to kind of take over and completely dominate the frame every time they're on screen. It really felt like these people were connected, like they were like they were friends, and that they wanted to solve these issues and do this weird adrenaline junkie science together, and that they were all in it together. Um, the thing I think performance wise that I wasn't super sold on was the romance. I don't think that Daisy Edgar Jones or Glenn Powell, again, I thought they were both great in the movie, like as far as like capturing who their characters were, letting me know exactly where they come from, what they're about, what they want. All of those things felt real and sincere to me. Um, but the romance part of it was, um, I didn't see like sparks fly. Like I didn't get the sense that I was like rooting for them to be together. There's also kind of like a hinted potential thing with Anthony Ramos and Daisy Edgar Jones, and I'm like, they don't really talk about it at all. They do talk about their kind of shared survivor's guilt from the opening sequence, but they um, uh, a lot of those things don't really get resolved or don't really get fleshed out. Most of the movie, the biggest theme is overcoming fear. There's that moment in the trailer where Glenn Powell says, don't face your fears, you ride them, and that's really what the whole movie is about. And I think because the movie does so much to zero in on that, a lot of the other themes sort of fall short and and don't really get fleshed out as much. And so I never really felt like the two leads were in love with each other. I feel like they were both kind of just in love with tornadoes, and they both just love their jobs. And I think that's kind of the point of the movie. But I wonder why they spent so much time trying to get me to fall in love with them as a couple. I feel like it ended up being a waste of time, unfortunately. I do feel conflicted about the romance in the first movie too. So I don't really I don't really knock this one so much because of that. But it is what it is. Again, I love the look of the film. I think the way that the weather is used dramatically is really cool. A lot of the way the wind is used to spice up normally boring frames, normally, you know, average conversations in a movie. They look more dynamic. They look more like they have more just weight and momentum because we can actually feel the wind picking up. We can actually see tents and cars blowing over. We can actually see windows shattering. Everything feels real because of that. We see the rain hit these characters and it bugs them. Like they're used to it, but they still have to blink it out of their eyes. It's real rain. It's real stuff. And I know Lee Isaac Chung said that he was studying a lot of Kurosawa films leading up to this, leading up to the production of the movie. I definitely got that sense watching this, but one thing that made those Kurosawa wind and rain shots so iconic is that he wasn't afraid to play them in really long wide shots back in the day, and here I do feel like um, there he does rely on a lot of long lenses, a lot of you know. A lot of medium to medium close and close ups. I think had he, tried to show the more dramatic moments in wides and been more dynamic with those stagings, I think the movie would have looked a lot more interesting, right? There's that famous scene in the original where the entire ensemble is eating steak and eggs, and it's one of the most memorable scenes in the movie because it's so beautifully staged. Everything's moving around, everything's doing that. But whenever the ensemble's together, I feel like the shots are just too short. I never really get to see a fully staged moment where all of them kind of bounce off each other's chemistry. And so so nothing bad about that. Obviously that's a creative choice that the entire team kind of decided on, and I think it's also kind of a modern creative choice. So that's just my own personal taste, my own personal nitpick. Overall, I really like this movie. I really enjoy this movie. I think if disaster movies are not your thing, if the kind of cheesy action from the 90s nostalgia is not your thing, I think you're gonna be probably, this is probably not gonna be your movie. But because I'm such a fan of the original, because I have watched it over and over and over again, I can see myself watching this movie over and over and over again. I think there are a lot of story elements that feel similar to the original, but it still sets itself apart in a big way by kind of addressing personal fear, instead of just trying to instead of like focusing on a weird romance slash divorce. I do appreciate that about this new one. Uh, and yeah, I don't have too much to say that's like it's non-spoilery, but I do recommend you watch it on a big screen. I watched it in IMAX. I'm probably gonna watch it again in Dolby. But yes, highly recommend it. I am gonna get into a couple spoilers, but yeah. So the opening scene of so yeah, spoilers start now. Um, yeah, so the opening scene is very similar to the opening scene in the original film. We see a little girl in the original losing her father to a tornado, and in here we see not a little girl, but actually a young college age scientist losing her entire team for an experiment that goes wrong, and uh, I think they did a really good job setting this one up. You know, we kind of the opening sequence in the original works for what it is, and really establishes tornadoes as this really dangerous thing, this really awful thing, and it's our first time seeing it on the big screen. Um, but we've since had a lot of tornadoes on film since then, and so I think having an escalated opening sequence in this 2024 film, I think really works. So what happens is we get her team established. We see her boyfriend who films everything. He's the driver, he's the muscle. We see the other two who are like really nerdy, really sweet, but also very excited about the experiment. And the three of them die. They get swept away by the tornado, and it's very sudden. There's nothing you can do about it. They really can't. They just they're just gone, just like that. And our protagonist is left. Kate is left totally powerless and totally frightened and totally just and swears off storm chasing for 5 years because of that. And seeing her and the movie overall, I think, did a good job of kind of getting her back to that place where she was at the start of the film, where she's excited to pursue science in this really dangerous environment, where she goes to work with a smile on her face. Um, you know, when she encounters that first tornado being back, um, we see this fear cripple her and really kind of get in the way of the work. And I really, I don't know. That's really what helped me relate to Kate as a protagonist. Um, Bill in the first one is, well, it's a dual protagonist, right? So the girl grows up and um, she's trying to, you know, essentially bring her father back, or try to stop, or try to make it so that people have a better chance than her family did in the beginning, you know. And then also Bill is kind of rediscovering that this is where he belongs, even though he's denying it. He actually really belongs with this crew. He belongs in this world. For Kate in this film, I really feel like she did get to overcome that fear in a way that was organic to the story. All these different elements that happen throughout the middle section of the film prepare her for the end, where she kind of goes rogue and tries to stop this massive tornado that's about to kill the entire town and kill the entire cast. Um, and yeah, I don't think that and they also did a good job of not making her feel invincible. She does get hurt a lot in the movie and gets beat up a lot and loses a lot, and she bounces back. And so I think because of that, I was able to really relate to the character and really relate to her journey. For Glenn Powell's character, um, I think it was kind of cool, kind of, kind of setting him up as like an antagonist, or like someone to butt heads with, but then, seeing his vulnerable side, seeing the side of him that wants to help people, that actually genuinely believes that his work is doing good, and believes that that science can actually help people survive tornadoes, or help people know more about tornadoes. I think there's also I think that really works for his character, and slowly peeling away those layers was really really cool to see. This is kind of his year, which is really fun to watch as someone who liked him in other movies but wasn't totally sold on him. Now it's like, okay, I'm sold on him. Since Hitman, well, with Hitman I thought he was very very good, and here I thought he's also very good. Um, and the director did a good job of kind of making him, uh, cowboy with a soft side, but not too, but not use too much eye candy as well. Um, but yeah, those are most of my thoughts about the movie. It's not that deep. It's twisters, but it's a really fun ride. It's kind of a fun like roller coaster. Get the whole family together and watch some suspenseful weather, very very bad weather happening, and people you care about almost dying. Yeah, it's fine. I don't read too much into it, but I do appreciate that they got someone who's actually from the Midwest to, try his best to represent these communities, and make them feel like real people who have to deal with real problems in the world, and also not be afraid to show the more technical side of the science and more technical side of what we can do to prevent people from getting hurt by tornadoes. But yeah, overall, I recommend Twisters. I'm happy that it seems to be doing well in the box office so far. It's only been a day, but yeah, highly recommend it. Go check it out. We love you, and thank you for watching.